The French presidential election in 2022 is here, and the results so far show a downturn in the participation rate, around 65%, down sharply from the same point back in the year 2017 when elections took place. The obvious question, why do French voters feel that they should not come out and vote like before, especially during uncertain economic times? In this edition of The Spotlight, we will look at Emmanuel Macron, the current president's 5-year report card, and why the contender Marine Le Pen actually has gained in popularity. And we will also take a look at the Muslim vote and why Macron may have lost that demographic. First, let's get an idea about some of the results that have come out from our correspondent Rami Mazari, who joins us from Paris to tell us about that. Rami, at this point, we know that some initial results have trickled in. Tell us about that and, of course, any developments there that you have.
Very, very close race between incumbent Emmanuel Macron and the 2017 runner-up, Marine Le Pen. Macron with 28%, Le Pen with 23%. A distant third, well, not a distant third, but Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the leftist, he scored 20%. That's a real failure. It's the exact same score that he got back in 2017. It really shows the failure of the French left to really sort of do anything. You had 4 out of the top 5 candidates be far right, and that's the way it ended. Eric Zemmour, very, very repugnant, convicted racist, and they seemingly handed the campaign agenda to him for months, from the fall until Ukraine. It was all the disgusting Islamophobia and xenophobia coming out of his mouth, and everybody just sort of following him in the mainstream media. And this explains why there was such high abstention. People don't really care about Islamophobia. It's not new here in France. It's not 2007. Running fourth was Valérie Pécresse, Sarkozy's candidate. But she didn't even get the endorsement of Sarkozy. I won't go on and on. I will note that Jean Lassalle got 3%. He is the only person who wore a yellow vest in the French Parliament. They immediately suspended Parliament and they fined him 1,500 euros. Good to see him getting 3%. And then at the bottom, I'll point out, the Socialist Party is totally smashed. She got just 2%, and then the 2 communist parties, they got less than 1% each. They are both Trotskyists, meaning that they disavow the Soviet Union and Cuba and basically every sort of working, and China and any sort of working socialist state. What they have already pivoted to, we have heard it behind me. We're supposed to all get behind, together, Macron to fight Marine Le Pen. The problem is that it's 2022. We've seen Macron's record. He legalized the state of emergency, which targeted Muslims, hurt them the most. He passed the anti-separatist law, which tried to get minors to not wear the hijab. He failed there, but he succeeded in neutering the rights of many other Muslim rights, freedom of assembly, freedom of religious worship, various political freedoms. And I think it's going to really come down to now, with what's going on now. It's not Islamophobia. This is not 2017. We have the, Trump president. Marine Le Pen is really not so shocking. And now, most of all, Macron was elected in 2017 to sweep out the mainstream. He is the mainstream. And he was elected because the mainstream parties were so corrupt. He set the record for ministers who had to quit for corruption, just only 2.5 years into his term. So how are voters going to view him? There's a very, very, very interesting poll just this week. 7 out of 10 French people want Macron to leave office. So that's really certainly very, very telling. The fact that we are at a dead heat now really should force us to look over at Hungary, where Marine Le Pen's counterpart, her right nationalist counterpart, he had very, very close polls, and then he had a very, 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 very large victory. I think personally we are headed in that same direction. Why? Because it's not 2017. People aren't so scared of Marine Le Pen, and especially Muslims know. We all know that Emmanuel Macron is an Islamophobe. He's not a centrist. He's had 5 years. I've already, what he got away with in terms of Muslim oppression and also in terms of oppression of the yellow vests, right, Marine Le Pen would have never, ever really gotten away with. So it's going to come down to pocketbooks, and that's Ukraine. I think many people are going to say that Marine Le Pen cares more about France. Macron cares more about the U.S. and Brussels. And I think we really could be headed towards a Marine Le Pen victory, but we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you so much for that. Ramin Mazari there from Paris. Let me introduce our guest for this edition of the Spotlight. Jeff Brown, radio host and journalist, joins us from Normandy. Also joining us, Arnold August, an author and journalist who joins us from Montreal. Welcome to you both. Jeff Brown, let me first start with you. So we're looking at a turnout that's 4 percentage points lower than at the same stage that occurred back in 2017. At the same time, based on the initial results, Macron seen at 29.5%, Le Pen 23.5%. Your initial reaction to that?
Well, this is exactly what happened in 2017, and my wife and I voted in that election, and we voted in the election today. And the problem is that the press is totally controlled by the elites. And what's going to happen now in round two is that they will totally demonize Le Pen and call her a fascist, radical, racist, extremist, to push the people towards Macron. And in 2017, before the first round, they made her look like she was an angel and a princess and a wonderful lady. And no, she's not that bad, and she's not that radical, because they did not want Mélenchon to get into the final round, because I think he's the only candidate that might have any chance of beating Macron. So here we are again, the left with 7 parties, all splintered. If all of those parties had backed Mélenchon would be going against Macron in the second round.
Why didn't they, you think?
And I think he could beat him.
Why do you think they didn't? At this point, do we have any who have endorsed either?
Well, the left in France has always been highly splintered. We've got you've got communists and Workers' Party, and then the socialists, ecologists. Two or three different communist parties, and there's a lot of infighting, a lot of jealousy, a lot of the left here has been talking forever about a unified left, and the last time that happened, Mitterrand got elected, and that has not happened since.
Okay, Arnold August, looking over here, moving to the second round with obviously Macron and Le Pen, if you haven't heard. Let's break this down a little bit and first talk about whichever you like. Let's pick Le Pen. What do you think of Le Pen? She's being described, as our guest there said back in 2017, of being an extremist and so forth and so on, but now she has portrayed and been successful in portraying herself as somewhat more moderate. And that obviously was to allay any concerns that the voters may have. Do you agree with that? What are your views on Le Pen?
Well, of course, yeah, she is definitely, and this is always the case in these type of elections, such as in France or United States or Canada. People on the right try to shift and change their appearance to be more moderate in order to try to get some more votes. But one thing is very interesting, talking about trying to be more moderate, is that she actually visited Moscow, I think, in 2017, and she came back saying that she had a high regard for President Putin. Of course, now Macron is fighting against that, saying, showing pictures of her in Moscow and trying to denigrate her with regards to the international affairs of being soft on Russia. So, it's a shift. It's a mixed ground. I mean, there's no clear way that one could describe Le Pen at this time, because everything is shifting according to circumstances with the one and only goal, trying to get votes.
When we take a look at the way that you said, Jeff Brown, that the media controls the way that these contenders and the incumbent is portrayed, perhaps, showing the pluses and minuses, what is the real story, do you think? For example, we had our correspondent when he spoke to us saying that 7 out of 10 voters actually support Macron, but we're not seeing that at the polls. is that or support Le Pen? Is that how? What is the deal? I mean, who has more popularity here?
Before every election, everyone who's registered to vote here receives a packet of information with the platform for all, and there were 12 candidates, mind you, which is too many. That's part of the problem with the French electoral system. And when you read Le Pen's platform, I don't think she's radical at all. She is definitely much more liberal than any Republican.
Give us one point that stands out.
Well, one point, she has a very socialist-minded, in terms of the 99% medical care, taking care of the people, providing, public services, etc. In fact, her economic advisor came from the Socialist Party. The only thing that she gets demonized here for is because she's the daughter of Mr. Le Pen, who was much more overtly racist. Le Pen is just against immigration, but that is not an unpopular platform around the world. And so, I mean, to be honest with you, other than the fact that she's against immigration, she's as far as I'm concerned, she's as much on the left as some of the other left-wing candidates. So the problem is the press is going to absolutely push her, or they're going to destroy her in the next 2 weeks, because we have to wait 2 weeks for the second round on the 24th. They will destroy her, and the other thing is Macron he's not middle of the road. He's a neoliberal right winger. He's a very neoliberal. World Economic Forum, Council on Foreign Relations. He is more right wing than Le Pen, but the press will make sure that that's not how it's portrayed, and that's the big problem here. Is the mass media, what I call the big lie propaganda machine, is what it decides who gets elected, unfortunately.
So let's put that into perspective, if we can, or if you can, Arnold August. We know that Marie Le Pen, one of the platforms that she ran on is the fact that she wants to somehow focus on the cost of living crisis and be able to tame that. Of course, we know that that's a huge problem for the French. Now, Macron, on the other hand, I'm not too sure how well he has done. They're touting a 7% GDP growth, but then when you take a look at the real figures, you can see that the deficit is still high. You're having a manufacturer base in France that's gone out of business. They're not doing that well. And also, we're looking at one of the worst inflations when it comes to energy. So who stands better? Who can fare better under those circumstances, you think?
Well, I think that, describing these specific programs of these two candidates, I don't think that it has very much currency or very much legitimacy amongst the population. Here in Montreal, there's a large number of French citizens, of course, who are voting today. And speaking briefly with them over the last few days, their frustration is, how come? I mean, the previous speaker talked about the role of the media. It's very important. And I think the most important feature of the media in these elections is they focus solely on Le Pen and Macron, as if these are the only two candidates that count, that have a chance of winning. So it's like a vicious circle. They avoid talking about Mélenchon, and they concentrate on the other two, making it like a sure bet that there's no chance for Mélenchon can win, and only the other two can win. Now, as far as I know, Mélenchon has a 11% rating amongst the voters. In other words, it's quite important. And speaking to my friends here in Montreal who are voting, they're very disappointed that this time the Communist Party of France did not sit it out as they did previously and openly support Mélenchon. And if they would have done that, I think we would be in a different situation now, far more solid, with chances very much improved for Mélenchon to actually get into that second round. And I think that if one look at his general program internationally and nationally, it is very good. It's a solid left-wing program. There's no real reason why the Communist Party of France did not drop their own, sectarian, if I may use the word, interests and goals, and in support, put all their backing in support of Mélenchon. He's a very dynamic person. And the fact that the media are just ignoring him, we may be in for some kind of a surprise, because the voter turnout is so low. It is mainly because people have no confidence in the two main candidates and their programs, which more often than not seem to be just, platitudes to try to get votes. Is very obvious. And we could actually have a surprise this Sunday with regards to Mélenchon. Let us see.
Well, we need to talk about the economy a little bit more here, Jeff Brown. And I'm looking at comments made back in 2017, because I had a record of that. And one of them said, you can't make it to the end of the month. This is just one of the French protesters, which we'll talk about where he was protesting. You can't make it to the end of the month, even with 2 salaries. Looking at some of the comments now made by some of the French, they're still struggling to make ends meet. So what has Macron done? And we're looking again at the voter focus, which is during this if I can call it that, post-COVID era, whether the French government under Macron can handle what's coming its way, as opposed to Le Pen.
Well, since 2017, Macron, you have to understand that Macron is a neoliberal Trojan horse. He is a Rothschild regent. He was cultivated by the Rothschild family, Goldman Sachs. He is an elitist and has absolutely no concern whatsoever for the common man. In fact, he's going to give his speech tonight at Versailles, where Louis Louis XIV was, but the problem is that, everything has gone south since the European treaty in 2007. Salaries are going nowhere. Inflation's going up. Social services for the 99% are being slashed. Since Macron got elected in 2017, just one example, 17,000 hospital beds have been shut down. Taxes have been raised on the 99%. Taxes have been lowered on the 1%. Austerity has been increased on the 99%. Austerity doesn't exist for the 1%. That's why the yellow vests have been out there for the last 3 years, and Ramin Mazahiri has done a brilliant job. They express the frustration, and we live here. A year ago, we bought 1,000 liters of heating oil for 777 euros. We just paid 1,966 euros for that same 1,000 liters of heating oil. So it's a disaster. He is a disaster, but he is a disaster for the 99%. He is a dream come true for Washington, the Council on Foreign Relations, the World Economic Forum, the CIA. He is their man. But you turn on the French television, and you don't see this, you don't hear it. The yellow vests are invisible. That guy you quoted never sees the light of day except on Press TV and other alternative websites. So it is just propaganda, and the big lie propaganda machine makes sure that the 1%'s candidate gets in, and that's happened with Sarkozy and Hollande, and now with Macron, and he will get in for the in the second round.
Well, Arnaud August, how can that be turned around? A, and B, do you think the French will be able to see through that based on what our guest from Normandy said? Because obviously, inflation, whether it's energy, food prices, basic goods, is going through the roof in many cases.
Well, I have to be an optimistic guy this morning, and you know, France has its revolutionary traditions going back several centuries, and they have stood up to a lot of the neoliberal policies that have been going on in France over the last few years. I have hope that Mélenchon will, after all, be able to get into the second round. That's what I'm hoping for, and the people I'm speaking here in Montreal are hoping for that as well. But the basic thing, the headlines are the voter turnout is down. One, why? They don't say so, but the voter turnout is down because all the emphasis are on those two, you know, one, as the previous speaker said, the two 1% candidates who are not like majority. So will their political consciousness be sharp enough, rebellious enough to make a break from the status quo, focus only on those two 1% candidates, and make a move to try to get Mélenchon into the second round, which I still think possible.
I'm going to now end it with a quote. I'm stuck between Le Pen and Macron. I'm going to go with Le Pen. If I can ask you, Jeff Brown, this is what she has said in her campaign trail. The presidential election day is a very important day because considering the situation of the country and the world, it will determine the course of not only the next 5 years, but also possibly the next 50 years. Do you agree with her?
It's maybe a little bit hyperbolic, but yeah, this is an important time for France and an important election. She lost 34% to 66% in 2017, and my wife and I voted for her in the second round because we knew that Macron was a train wreck to kill the working people in the 99%. I think Macron is still going to win, but the margin will be less. But he will, unfortunately, sadly, is still going to win.
Okay, we're going to have to end it there. Thank you, Jeff Brown, radio host and journalist from Normandy. Arnold August, a pleasure, author and journalist there from Montreal. With that, we come to an end for this edition of The Spotlight. From Mika Watatwa, it's goodbye until next time.